What's up, World Spartan Tribe? This is World Spartan 125, back for yet another great reaction. This is Absolute Mad Lads, the Master Thief, Gerald Blanchard? Okay, this one is a requested video, and I promised the person who requested that, oh, sorry. I promised the person who requested it that I would do it on Friday, but unfortunately I changed my stream day from today to Friday, so I'm doing this one on Thursday. I'm doing two today, only two, maybe three, I don't know, we'll see. But it's late at night. It's really late. I don't know why I left it this late. I just did, but okay. I need to get out of this habit because I've been doing late videos lately, and it's a bad habit to be in. I used to record videos in the afternoon, around lunchtime, or just after lunchtime, and it was great because I could be finished by dinner time, and it was fantastic. But I get into the habit of doing them late. I'll leave the links in the description down below for this video and its channel. And check out my links while you're there as well, yeah? Okay. Let's jump in.
Heist movies, while fun and very entertaining, are usually extremely embellished and exaggerated to make heists seem a lot more action-packed and advanced than they actually are. A lot of professional thieves often laugh at these movies because they are just so balls to the wall that they just simply can't exist anywhere else other than the silver screen.
I'm sorry to stop it so soon, but I've watched like heist movies and all, but I'm not a heist person. I've never been that sort of movie watcher. I've seen them, obviously, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch one. You know what I mean? Maybe if it was on Netflix or something, I might watch it just to see what the hype is about. But I never really liked heist movies. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you.
So balls to the wall that they just simply can't exist anywhere else other than the silver screen. But that's not quite true for one particular thief.
What?
Gerald Blanchard.
Okay, here we go.
Gerald Blanchard was born in 1972 in Winnipeg, Canada. As a toddler, he had a knack for taking things apart and he excelled at practical work, even though dyslexia and a speech impediment failed him in the classroom. Unlike most mad lads who come into their own over time as adults, Gerald Blanchard started young, pulling off his first heist at the age of 6. Young Gerald's family couldn't afford milk at the time, which seriously affected his enjoyment of cereal. So he took matters into his own hands when he spotted some newly delivered bottles of milk on his neighbour's porch.
Oh no.
Gerald snuck between parked cars and managed to steal the milk right from his neighbour's porch, undetected. The heist of the century. This little heist that he pulled off gave Gerald a huge rush, and Gerald was hooked. After his parents divorced, Gerald moved to Nebraska with his mother and started perfecting his craft, eventually getting into enough trouble for him to get sent to reform school. While he was at the reform school, he met his teacher, Randy Flanagan, who caught Gerald trying to steal the classroom VCR. Randy took Gerald under his wing and taught him construction, woodworking, modelling, and auto mechanics in order to put Gerald's talents to good use with honest work. And gradually, over time, he became like a father figure to Gerald. However, despite his efforts to straighten him out, Gerald was quickly drawn to crime, and Gerald quit his job at a grocery store to become a fence where he would trade in items stolen by department store employees. But this little venture raked in Gerald tens of thousands of dollars, and he was actually able to buy a house with $100,000 in cash at the age of 16.
What?
Gerald also brushed up on his already impressive tech skills, and he became a master of all things electronic and mechanical. Eventually, he was arrested for theft and was released a few months later after Randy vouched for him at his hearing. Randy still seemed to hope that he could reform Gerald and bring him back to the light.
So how many of you think they can be reformed? I'm gonna bet no. Yeah? Just a feeling. It's just a feeling. Yeah, I don't know.
To hope that he could reform Gerald and bring him back to the light. Then in 1993, Gerald was arrested in Iowa for a suspected car arson, and he was left in the interrogation room past midnight. The cops hadn't been back to interrogate him for a good few hours, so Gerald just decided to leave. So Gerald went into the room next to the interrogation room and climbed through the tiles in the ceiling and just sat there and waited. When the cops went into the interrogation room and found that he was gone, they thought that he ran out of the fire escape, so they all ran out after him. Gerald waited a while for things to calm down. He then climbed down from the ceiling, stole a police coat, a badge, a radio, and a revolver. He then left a bullet on his interrogator's desk and just walked right out of the police station, where he then hitchhiked all the way back to Omaha. Whenever any of the people who picked him up asked him about the police uniform he was wearing, Gerald would simply reply, "Costume party, really fun time."
Let me get this straight. This guy, he fooled the police into thinking he'd gone, right? He then sits and waits in his in the ceiling tiles, just the room next to the interrogation room. Waits for things to calm down, climbs down, leaves, and takes a police coat and whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell? How did he get away with this? I don't know. But I'll tell you what. And then he hitchhikes all the way back, all the way home, pretty much, right? To another state, was it? I think it was another state, yeah. And anybody who asked him why he was dressed like a cop, he just said, "Fancy dress party, really fun time." Like, what the hell? Seriously. Oh my god.
Back to Omaha. Whenever any of the people who picked him up asked him about the police uniform he was wearing, Gerald would simply reply, "Costume party, really fun time." The next day, Gerald was arrested by a SWAT team that had to use flash grenades to get him out of his mum's attic. But the cops didn't seem to learn the lesson from the previous night, so they just left Gerald in the police car with the keys. So Gerald just shimmied around to get his handcuffed hands in front of his body. He then locked the car doors, shimmied into the driver's seat, and just drove off. A car chase then ensued until Gerald swerved into a parking lot and tried to escape on foot, where the cops managed to grab him again. For this little escapade, Gerald was sentenced to 4 years in prison and deported back to Canada in March of 1997. He was also banned from returning to the United States for 5 years. In June of 1998, Gerald would finally join the big leagues. He was on holiday.
He stole a police car, got 4 years in prison, got deported from America, and was denied being able to return for 5 years. Are they serious? That's insane. That is absolutely insane. I mean, like, what the hell? I don't even know, man. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. And that's not the worst. You get into the big leagues? Can you imagine what this is going to be like?
Returning to the United States for 5 years. In June of 1998, Gerald would finally join the big leagues. He was on holiday in Europe with his wife and father-in-law when he found himself at the Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, and his father-in-law's high status got them all a sneak peek at a new exhibit that was about to open. An exhibit that left Gerald with stars in his eyes. The Koshert Diamond Pearl, also known as the CC Star. It is a 10-pointed, diamond-encrusted star hairpin with a giant pearl in the middle that belonged to its namesake, Elizabeth, the Empress of Austria, who was also known as CC. 27 of them were made for her by the court jeweller, Jacob Heinrich Kochert, but there are only 2 left in existence, and this particular one was worth over $2 million. But Gerald wasn't listening to any of that during the tour. Gerald was far too focused on other things in the room, like the position of the guards, their patrols, the layout and positions of the cameras, you know, things like that.
Yeah.
Gerald had also started recording for himself the layout of the room. He was also nice enough to record the no cameras sign while he was doing that.
Oh, God.
But why was he doing this? Why? During a unique opportunity to take in the beauty of this priceless artifact that hadn't even been seen in public in decades. Why was he paying attention to everything else in the room except for the CC Star? Well, it's because he'd have plenty of time to look at it later. The allure of the challenge was just too much.
This guy's insane, man. He did... Oh. You cannot tell me he actually stole it? Did he actually steal it?
Star. Well, it's because he'd have plenty of time to look at it later. The allure of the challenge was just too much. And Gerald couldn't help himself. Gerald, when no one was looking, used his own house keys to loosen the screws of the alarmed bulletproof glass display case, and then he unlocked a window at the other side of the room. And then he left. Everything was in place, but Gerald needed an entry plan. The only problem was the top-notch security. This was a palace, after all. This building was locked down tight. He couldn't just walk in there and pick up the star. But luckily, there was one security flaw in the building that Gerald could exploit. So he called up a German pilot friend of his, because for the next stage, Gerald needed a plane. But don't worry, this isn't going to be Ocean's 9/11. The roof of the palace was completely unguarded. So Gerald's plan was to get his friend to fly over the palace, and Gerald was going to jump out of the plane and parachute onto the roof.
No.
As you would expect, jumping out of a plane from just a mile in the air, trying to hit a very small target, you run a very high risk of overshooting your target, which Gerald did. Luckily, he was able to slow himself down enough and steer himself just right that he was able to just grab a railing at the edge of the roof and avoid a 4-story drop and certain death. He paused for a few minutes to regain his composure because, you know, he just nearly died. He unhooked...
No, I said it before, this guy's crazy. It has to be, yeah. Who would do something like that? Honestly. For a piece of jewelry? You're gonna risk your life for... I mean, I get it, yeah, it's the rush of it, right? You know what I mean? It's the rush he gets from that. I can't even... No. No. I can't even imagine why someone would do something like that.
4-story drop and certain death. He paused for a few minutes to regain his composure because, you know, he just nearly died.
Yeah.
He unhooked his parachute and then he started abseiling down the building to the window that he unlocked the day before. Once he was inside, he knew that he had to be very careful to avoid the guards, but he had a genius plan in place for if he could hear someone coming. He would just hide behind some curtains. But the coast was clear and he never came across any guards. So he got to work and he removed the screws from the display case that he'd already loosened the day before. Then he pulled out a butter knife, or, as they're known here in Britain, unregistered high-power assault weapon. But the butter knife had a very important purpose. You see, the case was connected to an electric current.
Unfortunately, it's true. Unfortunately, that is the truth. Here in the UK, they consider any type of knife, no matter how sharp or blunt or whatever, to be a weapon. That's it. It's if you step outside your house with it, you can have it inside your house. You can have like a butcher's knife inside your house. You can have any type of knife inside your house. See, as soon as you step outside with it, outside your own property or whatever, it's a weapon. Automatically a weapon. That's it. If you get caught with it, you're talking prison time. Yeah?
He would just hide behind some curtains. But the coast was clear and he never came across any guards. So he got to work and he removed the screws from the display case that he'd already loosened the day before. Then he pulled out a butter knife, or, as they're known here in Britain, unregistered high-power assault weapon. But the butter knife had a very important purpose. You see, the case was connected to an electric current where if the case was lifted and the current was interrupted, that would trigger the alarm. But by resting the butter knife against the metal plate, that meant that the current would not be interrupted and the case could be opened. But there was one final hurdle. The CC Star was sitting on top of a weight sensor. Yes, just like the one in Indiana Jones. Which meant that Gerald was going to have to do the famous Indy switcheroo with another object of the exact same size and exact same weight to avoid tripping the alarm. And luckily, Gerald had something exactly like the CC Star. It was another CC Star, but a fake one. A toy one. One that Gerald purchased from the museum's own gift shop.
No, there's no way. There's no way it's gonna work. Hey? There's no way they would be dumb enough to make the toy ones the same weight as the real one. There's no way. No, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work, right?
One. A toy one. One that Gerald purchased from the museum's own gift shop.
Oh, I can't wait.
And with the CC star in his bag, Gerald Blanchard slipped off into the night.
No.
Gerald, however, could not resist the urge to go back to the palace the very next day for the official public unveiling of the CC star, where he sat there watching everyone gasp and marvel at some.
Sorry guys, I'll put it back. Alarm just went off. Me. Okay.
It was another CC star, but a fake one, a toy one. One that Gerald purchased from the museum's own gift shop. And with the CC star in his bag, Gerald Blanchard slipped off into the night. Gerald, however, could not resist the urge to go back to the palace the very next day for the official public unveiling of the CC star, where he sat there watching everyone gasp and marvel at something that he bought in a gift shop. But despite that, and despite the fact that his parachute was discovered in a bin, no one suspected anything. And no one even realised that the CC star on display was a fake until 2 weeks later. But by then, Gerald had already smuggled it back to Canada in a scuba respirator. You honestly cannot overstate how
Let me ask you, how does he know all that? Did he get caught? Is that what it is? Is that how could you possibly how could you possibly know that you snuck it back to Canada? You know, in that way, he must have got caught, right? Or maybe not this one. Maybe in the future when he's doing like a heist or something, he got caught. I don't know. Guess we'll find out.
2 weeks later. But by then, Gerald had already smuggled it back to Canada in a scuba respirator. You honestly cannot overstate how impressive this robbery was. Gerald just pulled off one of the biggest heists in history, and he did all of the planning and all of the work for it just the night before. You know, like a student. Heists usually take months of planning.
Yeah.
But Gerald managed to pull this off when he only just decided to do the heist yesterday. Over time, Gerald's operation expanded and he was hitting bank after bank, using his insane tech skills to avoid detection and to cover his tracks by reverse engineering locks, hijacking camera feeds, and installing his own surveillance equipment. Gerald was doing very, very well for himself, and his criminal enterprise had expanded to the point where he had bank accounts loaded with cash in multiple different countries. He also had a young sidekick named Angela James. He also had many aliases and disguises, and he also did some real estate trading on the side.
Let me tell you, see at this point, this is when he should stop. Yeah? Don't get me wrong, I know he's addicted to the whole stealing thing. He wants to steal stuff. I get it. But this is where he should stop. Yeah? At this point, when he's got all the money, he's got all the, you know. But he won't, because it's an addiction. Yeah? It's an addiction and he needs it. Guaranteed.
Angela James. He also had many aliases and disguises, and he also did some real estate trading on the side with money in his Canadian accounts. And just when you thought Gerald Blanchard wasn't busy enough, he was also involved in a huge credit card fraud operation that spanned 2 continents, that was led by a British gentleman known only as the Boss. And just to top off the craziness that Gerald had going on, the boss's syndicate was also funding Kurdish rebels. Because, why not? Unfortunately, things started to unravel at this point. On the 15th of May 2004, the ATMs in the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in Winnipeg had just been loaded, ready for opening the following Monday. And Gerald was ready. He'd spent ages planning this heist, having been in and out of the bank many times to case the joint, and he even set up hidden cameras to spy on the workers setting up the ATMs. All Gerald had to do was walk into the ATM room, get the cash out of the machines, steal the hard drives containing the CCTV footage of his getaway van, and then he would walk out the door with $500,000 in cash. When the police...
Let me guess, it didn't work? He got caught? Guaranteed? Oh, this is not going to end well. I can tell.
Hard drives containing the CCTV footage of his getaway van, and then he would walk out the door with $500,000 in cash. When the police showed up, they were very confused because there was no signs at all of a break-in, so they just assumed that the alarm must have gone off by mistake. But despite this crime being almost the perfect crime, there was a snag. A Walmart employee from across the road noticed a suspicious van parked outside of the bank.
Oh no.
And he made a note of the van's plates. And when the cops ran the plates, they seen that the van had been rented in the name of one Gerald Blanchard.
He used his own name? Are you telling me he didn't use an alias? He used his own name. After all that planning, after all that, he used his own name? You gotta be kidding me, man. You gotta be kidding me. There's no way. There's no way. He used his own... Idiot. Stupid. Oh god. Just when I was just thinking this guy was like the smartest guy ever. He does something as stupid as that? Really? That's how he got caught?
The road noticed a suspicious van parked outside of the bank, and he made a note of the van's plates. And when the cops ran the plates, they seen that the van had been rented in the name of one Gerald Blanchard. This led the cops down an absolute rabbit hole of all of Gerald's shady dealings. And before long, they were on to him. So they wiretapped his phones. The wiretaps were an absolute goldmine of information for the investigators, and they got to hear all about all of the frauds and all of the bank jobs that Gerald was setting up. But things got really interesting on the 16th of November 2006 when the boss called, sending Gerald on a job to Cairo, Egypt. Gerald set up a crew and was on a plane within hours. The job was to withdraw as much cash as he could from ATMs using 1,000 stolen credit cards. Sounds easy, but everything went to shit when one of Gerald's guys went AWOL. This started a chain of events that led to the cops finally pinning down Gerald with an absolute mountain of evidence. On the 23rd of January 2007, Gerald was arrested and so much tech was seized from him that it was surprising that the Brotherhood of Steel didn't get to him first. He refused to snitch on any of his accomplices, which resulted in none of them serving any jail time. Gerald also decided to be a good boy and fully cooperate with the police, at least as far as his own crimes were concerned. He told them so much information that the investigators were genuinely impressed by him and they actually started to respect him. After a lot of pushing and prodding, Gerald finally gave in and decided to give up his most prized possession, the CC Star. Gerald took the cops to his grandmother's house in Winnipeg, where he had stashed the CC Star in the basement. Gerald pled guilty to 16 charges and faced 164 years in jail, but luckily he was...
Ooh. Oh, jeez. You say 164 years? That's life, right? He's never... I'm willing to bet he made a deal, though. Yeah?
Gerald pled guilty to 16 charges and faced 164 years in jail, but luckily he was only sentenced to 8 years, purely because he'd never actually committed a violent crime and because of his extensive cooperation with the police and generally being an all-round nice guy. The judge even said that the banks should actually hire Gerald, and the judge also said that Gerald had a great future ahead of him if he were to pursue an honest lifestyle. Gerald was actually grateful that he'd been caught because now his compulsive thrill-seeking could finally come to an end and he could move on with the rest of his life. Gerald was released from prison on parole after only 2 years.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. He did it again. He went back to his old life. I would like to think that he became like a security consultant or something. They're trying to catch people like himself. You know what I mean? And maybe went to work for the government or something like that, you know? He could have a bright future in security, I guarantee it. With his background. But how much do you want to bet he just went back to his old ways as soon as he got back out?
Could finally come to an end and he could move on with the rest of his life. Gerald was released from prison on parole after only 2 years, and he pursued a career as a security consultant before becoming a successful drone operator and videographer in British Columbia, and he also became an advocate for ownership of several cats. I mean, why not? So the story's got a nice happy ending. Gerald had finally turned his life around and was thriving on the straight and narrow and was now using his skills in a legal job that he actually enjoyed. Nice happy ending, right?
Yeah.
Well, in 2017, he was caught stealing $3,000 worth of games consoles from a Best Buy in Burlington.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Old habits die hard.
Alright guys, that's the end of the video. I knew it. I knew he wouldn't go straight for long. Well, actually, that's not true, because he served, that was 2006, he served 2 years. So that's 9 years or something he went straight for, and well, at least as far as we know. He got caught in 2017. Doesn't mean he wasn't stealing stuff before that, he just didn't get caught. Just stole a whole lot of things, and nobody would ever know. He just got caught in 2017. I knew it. I knew it. Oh man. Thank you. I know who you are. I'm just not going to say your name out loud because I don't do shout outs anymore. It's not fair for me to shout out one person, not another. You know who you are. I know who you are. Thank you for requesting this one. I enjoyed it a lot. And until next time, I am out of here.